We hope it's a happy day for you. As we here at the Big Bid Theory, we have kind of a tinge of sadness, but laced with some excitement. This is our final episode of 2017, and, well, you'll hear in a minute, we're certainly going out with a bang.
Bill, are those tears in your eyes?
No, funny, Lauren. Actually, I had some leftover jalapeno dip from Thanksgiving. That's the reason you see the tears in my eyes. Speaking of Thanksgiving, we hope you and yours had a splendid day of thanks. I spent 6 fun-filled days out in California, mixing and mingling with TBBT listeners and also checking out the Marine Lair. And by the way, if you've never seen it, it's always an amazing sight to behold. Our TBBT listeners and the Marine Lair. In this crowning episode of the show for Season 3, we look back and look ahead. Speaking of Marine Lair, at the end of the show, Jim Ward is going to layer in a crazy bids you can win. First, though, what an astounding year of bids and purchasing. In a moment, we're going to hear from an expert on government purchasing who's going to recap 2017, also look ahead to 2018, and she's in the know. You'll want to hear what our guest has to say about positioning your business to win government contracts. In 2017, BidPrime had an unprecedented year in terms of bids, RFPs, solicitations identified. You may recall back in January, Stephen Hetzel predicted this activity we've witnessed this past year. There's a link to a video in the description of the podcast, by the way. So, how do you close down a season of shows when your podcast is named The Big Bid Theory? Well, you bring in an expert who knows a lot about what's going on in the U.S. bids world. Jennifer Saltz is the Chief Administrative Officer for the National Association of State Procurement Officials, based in Lexington, Kentucky. She's earned the designations of Certified Public Procurement Officer and Certified Professional Public Buyer. Prior to joining NASPO, Jen was an Assistant Director of Purchasing and General Services for the state of Utah. With me asking the questions, Jen shares her insights on NASPO, purchasing activity, and again, some tips to know about doing business with the government. And there's a lot more here as well.
I just went through her background. Appreciate very much Jen Saltz sitting in with us. And Jen, for those not familiar with the National Association of State Procurement Officials, what is NASPO?
So NASPO is a nonprofit association. We are dedicated to advancing public procurement through leadership, excellence, and integrity. And NASPO is made up of the directors of the central purchasing offices in each of the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the territories of the United States, and also includes their immediate central purchasing staff. NASPO is also an organization that helps its members achieve success as procurement leaders through the promotion of best practices, education, professional development, research, and innovative procurement strategies. In addition to just NASPO, we have NASPO Value Point. So Value Point is the nation's largest public cooperative contracting organization. Value Point's a nonprofit subsidiary of NASPO, and they're charged with providing states and local governments and public educational entities with best value contracts to support their missions.
We notice in purchasing in our day jobs that cooperatives are becoming more and more prevalent, of course, here in the United States when it comes to leveraging the power of multiple entities coming together to maximize their ability to get good contracts for their respective entities. And by the way, as a lead up to our conversation, I went to NASPO's website, and I encourage everyone, all of our listeners, to go to NASPO's website. It's really a treasure trove of good information. Now, as I mentioned in the intro to this episode, 2017 has been an absolutely remarkable year, just in terms of the sheer numbers of requests originating from the public sector. And for that matter, and we've had a number of guests on this season, the mix of products, services, solutions being solicited out there. Governments are buying drones and AI, artificial intelligence, IoT, mixed reality, just some of the cool things. Of course, we had Robert Scoble on earlier this season. But Jen, from your vantage point, what stood out in 2017 for you when it comes to government purchasing?
Every year, NASPO identifies the top 10 priorities for states based on rankings from state procurement officials across the nation. And in 2017, the top priority was the strategic role of state central procurement. By identifying this as a top priority, our members, they basically want to ensure that procurement is actively participating in creating an enterprise vision for their state. So this can be accomplished through existing centrally led procurement teams with centralized procurement authorities and elevated roles and hierarchy of their executive branches, leveraging statewide spend, agency relations and communications, and taking an active engagement in operations, risk management, and IT implementation, as you mentioned. IT has just been exploding in public procurement. And in fact, I was looking on the NASPO Value Point website, and, they're in the process of putting together a major cooperative effort for drone technology. So it's exciting to see what, procurement's involved in.
Yeah, it really is. And now, Jen, on the flip side, and I guess we all wish we had this power where we could see into the future, we would all buy lottery tickets, right? Well,
sure.
Well, Jen, if you would, reach across your desk and grab your crystal ball. What does 2018 have in store for everyone?
Well, my crystal ball is kind of dark, but just because our 2018 top priority list is not yet complete. I wish I had that for you, but I can tell you just based on the discussions that we've had over the past year, IT is going to make a major jump in the priority list. There's been a lot of discussion around IT topics in the last year, specifically on emerging technologies such as, cloud solutions, anything as a service type procurement, and making sure that, we encourage early involvement and collaboration with purchasing divisions as, states move forward and develop these large IT procurements as they develop terms and conditions surrounding IT, cybersecurity, and even different contracting models. I mean, these are major efforts that are, high priorities for states.
Anybody who has followed the show over the last 3 years, they know how often this topic has come up. And anybody who's really been watching the news for the past 12 months understands that infrastructure has been a hot topic. Any rumblings out there, any rumors on the street when it comes to the growth in infrastructure?
When I was with the state of Utah, I was heavily involved in IT procurement. So I know in our state and just from having discussions with colleagues across the country, infrastructure is a major topic that everyone's discussing.
Yeah.
And the discussions going back and forth as to whether or not to keep infrastructure in-house or do we outsource. So Utah led on behalf of NASPO Value Point members a cloud solutions cooperative solicitation. And part of that resulting contract portfolio includes infrastructure as a service. And so it's new, it's emerging. Some states are still, there's some reservation about outsourcing that, but we're hopeful that, this major undertaking, this cooperative effort that we put together with NASPO Value Point and our members will be helpful to states as they move forward and make those types of decisions for infrastructure in the future.
Yeah, and we will certainly, and of course I'm talking about the 2018 season, we're clearly going to keep an eye on that topic as well. And of course, infrastructure goes beyond IT as well when you're talking about bridges and airports and highways and those kinds of things as well. Jen, we receive here, throughout the years, we receive emails, calls from people, businesses on a daily basis, questions about and concerns about taking that next step towards getting certified to do business with governments. Jen, I guess we're talking even for people who are already in the game. What would you suggest as tips for earning government contracts? What have you learned in your experience that kind of separates those who are being successful versus those who are struggling or not ready to take the leap?
I'd have to say this was one of my favorite questions. And I always recommend researching, states and local jurisdictions, their procurement laws, processes, and procedures, just so you can be educated as you go through, the procurement process. Doing business with a state and local government can be, very different than doing business in the private sector. Unlike private sectors, states and local governments, they can't just contract with a supplier just because they like a marketing pitch. Typically, states, they're required to conduct a competitive solicitation process before, awarding a contract and expending taxpayer dollars. And these competitive processes can vary widely between states and local jurisdictions. So when you're responding to a solicitation from a state or local government, make sure you thoroughly review all of the solicitation documents. Make sure that you're familiar with any of the mandatory requirements and the scorable evaluation criteria. A supplier's proposal should demonstrate how their products or their service meets or exceeds the solicitation requirements and provides value. That's how, your product is going to be judged. And so ensuring that you have a well-crafted proposal will make all of the difference. I've personally conducted hundreds, if not thousands, of solicitations in my career, and unfortunately, I see the same mistakes being made over and over again from suppliers who don't take the time to put together a clear and concise proposal. They submit canned marketing material. And I can tell you that in my experience, those types of proposals have been scored, extremely low. Some have even been disqualified. And the supplier, unfortunately, doesn't even get an opportunity to participate and be competitive. So, that's what I would recommend for folks to do is just take the time to, review the solicitation, see what the state or the local government is trying to accomplish through the solicitation, and tailor your response accordingly.
Whenever I hear somebody with your experience talk about this, and I've asked this question before of professionals in the purchasing procurement world, I always think back to the old make a list and check it twice kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you brought up a very good point that maybe not everyone understands. Purchasing procurement in Salt Lake City, the rules and regulations can be very different than Austin, Texas, or Chicago, Illinois, or county in Alabama. Yes, you do need to make sure that you're complying with all the specifics. Earlier this season, and Jen, I don't know if you caught this episode, but we had Marcia Matson on, and Marcia is an attorney with Mayor Brown. And Marcia discussed some of the challenges confronting those working on the ground in procurement. Marcia talked about bureaucracy, the huge load of rules and regulations, kind of what we talked about a moment ago, lack of understanding, meaning experience in the commercial world for those working in procurement, shortages of experienced staff. Did Marcia get it right? Or Jen, what would you add to her list? And I guess on the flip side of that, do you know of what's being done to address any of the issues you're getting ready to raise and or Marcia brought up 6 months ago?
Again, like I said earlier, the number one priority ranking from state procurement leaders, across the nation was the strategic role of the state central procurement office. And many of these states' purchasing divisions, they're still struggling with active participation when enterprise vision is being discussed at the state's executive management level. A lot of purchasing divisions feel undervalued, underrepresented when executive decisions are made. All states have, procurement codes, and these codes have to be followed when expending public funds. And procurement codes typically include laws that ensure transparency during the public procurement process. They ensure fair and equitable treatment of all suppliers participating in these processes. They provide increased economy in state procurement activities and foster broad-based competition. So if state and local governments don't involve their purchasing divisions when enterprise decisions are being made or at the beginning of a solicitation process, major problems have occurred. I've seen that firsthand. It becomes a major problem. And NASPO is doing quite a bit to facilitate solutions. We have education and partnerships going on. We're definitely confident that we're going to be able to improve purchasing's participation in high-level decision-making based on the education and the research that we're developing. NASPO has recently developed. It's called Procurement U. It's a multifaceted education platform provided to our members and other state government staff if they want to participate in Procurement U. Procurement U, we provide professional development opportunities, training, resources, publications, and other research that's specifically tailored to meet the needs of our procurement officials and their staff. Some of the more recent course offerings, we have market research, terms and conditions, a course on requests for proposal development, sole sources, and even an introduction to cooperative purchasing. We have a lot of just resources for staff in order to maybe just elevate their understanding of procurement at a foundational level. So that's very exciting.
Our audience members who have been around since we launched the show 3 years ago understand that we firmly believe information is power. And as I mentioned at the inception of our conversation, NASPO is a treasure trove of good information. And Jen, two words that you mentioned a moment ago are near and dear to my heart. You mentioned transparency and you mentioned competition. And I know the suppliers out there, businesses involved in government contracts, that's the expectation, right? Is that everybody has a fair opportunity to win business.
Absolutely.
Because we're talking, and I think people get it by now, we're talking about literally billions upon billions of dollars being awarded each year across the country.
Yes. States and local governments, they are one of the largest buyers of goods and services across this nation. I mean, it's extremely important for states to embrace competition and transparency just to ensure that, they're expending taxpayer dollars. We need to be fair and transparent in expending that money.
No doubt at all. Now, Jen, I mentioned earlier about looking into the crystal ball, looking ahead. There's a big, huge event coming up in March of 18, the Big Apple, NYC.
Right.
Tell us about the NASPO Exchange. What is that?
Sure. We couldn't be more excited about this upcoming exchange. Yeah, New York City, it's going to be outstanding. We're really excited about this. So, like you mentioned, it's going to be held March 18th through the 20th. And the purpose of the exchange is to build relationships among the supplier community and state governments. The exchange provides a unique opportunity where partnering, networking, and, all learning comes together. We want to develop business relationships to support public procurements across the nation that are, not only effective and efficient, but they're transparent and fair. So I just want to be clear, the exchange is not just for NASPO Value Point contract holders. Any supplier wanting to learn more about doing business with states or wanting to gain more information on state procurement priorities, or if they're, interested in learning how to become a NASPO Value Point contractor, they'll all find the exchange incredibly valuable. So, what other conference provides suppliers with one-on-one meeting opportunities with state chief procurement officials and their staff? So it's exciting.
Yeah, it sure is. And I just want to give you a chance to clarify this. Do I have to be a part of a Fortune 500 company to go to NASPO Exchange?
No, absolutely not. No, we're looking for, any supplier who's looking to, do business with states and local governments. We encourage them to participate. So it's not just for, those large corporations. This is for anyone who, wants to do business with states.
Jen, final thing. If any of our listeners have follow-ups, want to keep up with NASPO, how do they reach or follow NASPO?
So I would recommend logging on to our website at naspo.org. We have a lot of information concerning our organization. Like I said, they can find more opportunities for research and publication that we've developed, all of our association events. You can actually register for the exchange through our website, and we have information on how to contact us directly on the website. So you can also follow us on Twitter. We have an amazing staff who, they love to tweet and provide all kinds of photos and just informational snippets so people can keep track of what's going on at NASPO.
for our listeners, and just to let them know, we will include NASPO's URL, and also the Twitter handle will be included in the description of the podcast so everyone can avail themselves there. Well, Jen, on behalf of our entire audience, our staff here at the Big Bid Theory and Bid Prime, appreciate so much you joining us.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure, so thank you.
Thank you kindly again to Jen Saltz. And by the way, everyone have a fun, informative time in New York in March of 18. Now, I wish we had a drum roll effect. We'll have to put that in the budget for 2018. Lauren, can you write that down? As our little show has become not so little over the past 3 years, Jim Ward's Crazy Bids have taken the podcast verse by storm. So as we bid adieu to this season, the only one, Jim Ward with Crazy Bids You Can Win.
Look out there, I thought that doll was a baby.
Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the
last episode
of Season 3's Crazy Bids That You Can Win. My name is the Jim Ward, and I want to welcome all of you returning listeners. We have quite a few returning listeners, and thank you very much. So I wanted to end the season on a bang and not a whimper, okay? I'll cut right to the chase. The bid is for 3 short films. That's it, 3 short films. It's put out by the Department of the Interior, who actually probably my favorite department, I have to say. If I had to choose, I would
probably go with Interior.
And it's going to be done in Colorado. So I literally am going to bid on this. I promise, and I will let you know how it goes. But so I already have some ideas, though. I have some things done, basically. It's going to be pretty rad. It's going to be pretty out there, I have to say. I'm going think Technicolor Dreamscape. You know what I mean? Think big budget film, but like at an indie festival. So my 3 films that I'm going to be submitting as of right now. The first one is called Red Current, and it's kind of a coming of age story. Kind of Jane Austen-esque inspired, kind of think like Man into the Spring, except in a short film. It's the grit. It's innocence lost and innocence found,
and innocence lost again, except even worse.
And I want it shot in pastels. And the difference, instead of it being about like a young girl, I would like it to be about Arsenal,
my football club.
That would be so awesome, though. So Red Current, that would be number 1. My second entry would be El Barrio, and this is my toughest task, if you will. What it is I'm going to film the daily comings and goings in my neighborhood, but I'm gonna make it edgy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna make my neighbors interesting, which a lot of people would say is impossible. But I'm going for just that vibe, you get in certain films where, one false move and someone gets cut. Mi barrio. Mi barrio. It's hard because my neighborhood, it's like a bunch of when you were little and you were playing ball in the front yard and you hit the ball into your neighbor's yard, and that old man would come out on the porch, and just chastise you, maybe shake his cane a little bit. That's all of a sudden I'm surrounded by them. It's crazy. And trying to make them anything more than extremely unremarkable, much less like cutting edge, is going to take a facelift
that would make Liz Taylor blush.
I'm totally serious. This is going to be a tough one. So my second entry is El Barrio. Okay, so for my third entry, it's by far my most challenging. I mean, it could be the end of Jim. It could be. I plan on going to the Amazon rainforest and filming myself meeting an uncontacted tribe, actually of headhunters in this case. But I've had some very, very well-paid mercenaries scout out some areas in Acre, Brazil, and I plan on meeting the Ikiaks, and I will be filming this, and so it will be, who knows what kind of magic, or whatever is going to come out of this. But, I'm going to buzz their tower. I mean, I'm going to see what's going on in Acre on a Saturday night, I want to smell their smells, if you will. One of the problems I foresee is they don't really have like an oral language. They just talk with clicks, like. So I'm obviously going to need to work on clicking better. Plus, I've gotten inoculated like I was going to Uranus or Neptune. And yeah, I went there. This is that bleak. But anyway, once I work on my clicking, I think I will be able to make contact with these people and have some meaningful exchanges of philosophical debate by the time I leave. So once again, my third film is going to be called Hola, Soy Jim. Thanks again for another truly epic season. Bill and the crew have done just such a fantastic job. I can't believe it's been 3 seasons now. I mean, who would have thought that the little podcast would grow into this juggernaut? So, and all of you listeners, all this time, I mean, is there really a me without you? Of course there is. A splendid one, actually. But thank you very much for listening all this time. Crazy bids that you can win by the Jim Ward. Bill, man, have a good break. Back to you guys in the studio.
Crazy bid. Crazy bid. Crazy bid.
Ciao.
Regardless of your opinion on Jim's video ideas, you have to admit this. If you've seen any of our promo videos over the years, the camera does love it, some Jim Ward. The Big Bit Theory playlist is on Bid Prime's YouTube channel if you want to check out some of Jim's excellence in front of the camera. Well, that is most definitely a wrap on 2017. Christmas is coming up. Wrap, get it? Jim, season 3, we made it, my friend, and for all of those who said we wouldn't make it to 3 episodes, well, shame on you. We showed you, didn't we? Jim, Lauren, Braden, and I are now going to go on sabbatical. We're going to travel, research, relax, and prep for Season 4 of TBBT in 2018. Keep an eye on our Twitter and Facebook to see about the launch of Season 4. And oh, by the way, make note of this, to tide you over during those cold and wintry days and nights of December and January, we're going to rebroadcast some of the episodes from Season 3. Yes, I see it. I see the eyes twinkling with excitement. Keep the emails coming. I'm at vculhane@bidprime.com. Jim's email, forever pushing storage limits due to his fan emails. Jim is jward@bidprime.com. TBBT's Twitter handle is @TheBigBitTheory. I'm contract_hunter. JW is at JimWard6, the number 6. And absolutely do not forget Facebook. Thank you, Jen Saltz from NASPO. Get to New York City in March, folks. Also, thank you to all of our informative and entertaining guests in 2017. For the Jim Ward, our staff, and by the way, why does Lauren have packed suitcases and her passport in the control room? Y'all have safe and happy holidays out there. See you next year. Go Gunners, Barracudas, Tigers, Bobcats, and Cubs. And we wish you all the best in growing your business.
We're having so much fun.